straight up at the camera, guys.
Council's taken this very seriously. As you're aware, we've sent experts out to Europe to have a look, because there's no development of this magnitude anywhere in Australia, and they went to Europe to get a comparison, and they couldn't find one development in anywhere in the world of this magnitude. So the concerns we have is all of the planning and environmental controls that are currently applicable to smaller waste facilities will not apply to this size of facility. But regardless of the outcome, I think it's the wrong site to put a facility of this magnitude so close to residential properties. I've raised the alarm bells. I was the first councillor to raise the alarm bells when the development application was put in over a year ago, you know, I had so many questions that were unanswered, and they're still unanswered today. So we're concerned about the health effects and the environmental effects, but more of the health effects, you know, the carcinogenics. And one of the biggest concerns is in the original EIS, we don't know what's in the second EIS, but in the original EIS there were no controls as to what goes in the incinerator. They were relying in their submission on what they call third-party certification. Means the person who's bringing in the waste has to say, yep, there's no carcinogenics in it, there's no asbestos, right? So there's no other checks other than the person bringing in the stuff saying, you know, they certify that this is
bringing in there?
exactly. The other concern, because of the magnitude of the incinerator, once they get it going and fired up, they need to keep it going. Okay, it can't shut it down. It costs them too much to shut down and start up again. And I was advised that there is not enough waste in Sydney generated to keep that incinerator going all the time. So what does that mean is they're going to have to start burning recycling material. Okay, so we're going to go backwards in terms of renewables and recyclable materials, because to keep the incinerator going, not only will you be burning the waste, because they need to feed the beast, you're going to have to tap into the recycling material. So these are our issues. Now, this is not in my electorate. This is in the electorate of Mulgoa, and the member for Mulgoa is Tanya Davis. So I suggest you spread the word. Tanya has a big say because she's part of the government as to whether this gets approved or not. So I suggest that you all write to Tanya, phone Tanya's office, raise your concerns, tell all your friends to call Tanya, because Tanya at the moment has been very, very silent on this issue.
We're also happy to take you for a tour of the site if you'd like us to do that. We're just going to go down in the office, get some PPE on, and we can take you around. I think there's this fear that it's largest in the world, and let me just take it through a step at a time. We, HZI is our technology provider, right, who we've chosen, who we feel is amongst the top tier of this technology in the world. They have over 500 plants, 500 plants of similar ilk and that over the years, so huge experience. We've got 500 plants worldwide. And there's 35 countries that adopt this. You would actually argue that Australia is quite slow off the bat with this. Right? Landfilling, in our opinion, even though we own a landfill, is an old beaten technology, and this is a much cleaner solution for creating electricity. So it's not the first in the world, that's for sure. Right? It's a large plant, for sure. That's why we're building it in 2 stages. It's enough to create electricity for 200,000 homes. The good news about a bigger one is that it's more efficient. You have better efficiencies on many scales and for the electricity production. Right? I'm not sure if I can give you a good analogy, but there's taxis that take 6 people and there's buses that take several. The bus system is arguably more efficient, a train's more efficient than that. Yeah, it's large, but Sydney's a large population, and it's from a commercial position. That's a company decision of how large it should be. As far as the unit itself, I think to answer your question most fully, we are actually replicating off a plant from overseas called Ferrybridge. Ferrybridge it's called Ferrybridge in the UK. Established in 2013. There's data, so it is tried and proven technology, and the fact that we're coming off that, you can see the emission results from that plant. So most certainly we have a real test case of a very, very similar as you can get. The only thing we'll do is improve on that plant of what we're going to be doing. So it's not an estimate, it's not a desktop study. There's some real data out there. You're saying that there's an Australian standard not as stringent as a European standard. This plant is underneath the European directive. There's been a misunderstanding, poorly reported by us or whatever it may be, that this is emitting, that this plant is not of the cleanest and best technology it is. We are underneath the European directive. The New South Wales environmental policy is underneath the European directive, and the plant itself is under that. So anything reported differently to that is incorrect. And don't forget that this process has been going on for 3 years with us now. We did a huge amount of documentation. It was put on exhibition. We're now going on exhibition currently, which brings us all here, which is great, for the second time. And so the idea of going out to the public and getting lots of feedback was to pick if there is any flaws in the operation, if there is any improvements. The whole design or look of the plant is completely different to what it was, because there was feedback that the design could be better. So we've done that. Oh, look, I think it's a fair question. It's not under our control. We would have liked to submit some time ago, but the process we've gone through, so don't forget, we're on exhibition almost well over a year ago, so it's been a whole year passing. So there's not a story there if that's what you're looking for. We're now going on exhibition for 68 days. Normal exhibition, I think, is 28. All of the emissions are below the human health criteria.
Yeah, but what are they?
Which is unacceptable.
There's not one magic answer in a box, is it? I'm not a scientist. There's a full document in the EIS. I'm not going to stand here and pretend that I'm a scientist, because I'm not.
Any pollution at all is too much.
I'm fine with that response. All right. So what I would say to you is, you've got more pollution coming off 2 kilometres of the M4 than you will have off this entire plant.
Because the alternative is exactly, it goes into the hole. It produces greenhouse gas there. That creates pollution. It does. That's the facts today with the waste we have today. At the same time, if you let me talk. At the same time, we produce electricity from dirty coal power stations, actually the dirtiest ones worldwide. Using waste as a feedstock has two purposes. It actually decreases the overall pollution because we need less coal power, we don't have the greenhouse gases at the landfill, plus we detoxify the material. And if you just look at all of us, we have plenty of materials on us wearing in your hands, which we cannot fully recycle today. So, I fully agree, that's the ambitious goal, that ultimately we have everything renewable, we could recycle everything. But in the hierarchy, it is... No, this is actually not true. In the hierarchy, energy from waste is below recycling, however above landfilling. And in Europe and in leading countries such as Denmark, Holland, Switzerland, Germany, energy from waste is clearly recognized as a necessity even in a fully sustainable society. And the reason is they've recognized you have to detoxify your waste.
That is, and you know what? We support that, because that is an incinerator. What we're creating is not an incinerator. You want to slam it with the word incinerator? Incinerator is an open pit that burns it with no technology on the back of it to clean it. 75% of the cost of this plant, which is substantial as you point out, is all about the flue gas treatment, which means it's a system that cleans the emissions. Without that, we're just an incinerator. With that, we're energy from waste. There's a significant difference in this word that's trying to be used as propaganda. It's not propaganda. An incinerator is an open burn. When you light a match, it's incineration. It was in 2012 that we opened the facility here. We had to open the largest landfill in Sydney and beyond. We then came across questions that were put at us, identical to that question you just asked me back then. And we were, crucified's a strong word, all right? But we were ran over the coals with a little bit of propaganda, and I'm not trying to think, I take your question, but you need to take my answer. We had a landfill situation, which is the bottom of the hierarchy level. It is the bottom. We have a lot of experts here with this information, all right? And when it comes to waste, I think that some of my input needs to be taken as an expert as well. Landfills are the bottom of the ladder. And all the concerns of dust, noise, smell, all those environmental concerns come with the landfill. We then go to energy from waste, all right? And by doing that, the combustible waste that is now buried, converting that instead to go to energy from waste, reduces the greenhouse emissions by 3 million metric tonnes, which is on the brochure here, 3 million metric tonnes per annum. We've got a situation where people didn't want the landfill. We're now giving you an alternative which turns around the greenhouse emissions by 3 million metric tonnes per annum. So we're talking about a much cleaner technology. It is a 60% renewable energy, right? It's cleaner than burning coal, right? It is a great solution, and it's recognised worldwide as a great solution. It's not the bottom of the ladder. To finish off what I was saying, we have a solution here which takes combustible material and turns around the greenhouse emissions significantly, right? You then talk about the recycling. What we don't do is we don't rob the recycling hierarchy to do that. This is the residual waste that can't be recycled economically, or you have to just let me keep going through it, right? So the residual waste that are now buried, all right, is what we are capturing and turning into energy rather than landfilling, which turns around the greenhouse emissions. You talk about avoidance, which is far higher up the ladder. You talk about avoidance of biodegradable materials. Biodegradable itself means they've got to degrade to do it. We're avoiding degradation completely. One of the problems, for instance, is plastics. Plastics is an item that you say, well, let's make a biodegradable plastic. The problem is then let's recycle plastic. One of the two nearly contradict each other in one sentence, because if you have a biodegradable plastic, you can't put it into a recycling process. So it in itself in the market is causing a confusion. When you put the stuff in the bin and think you're doing the right thing, you've got a plastic we can recycle, you've got a biodegradable one which we can't. Let's just stay on point. All right? And the point was, why don't you do this and that and all these other things, okay? I could put the same question back to everybody here. Why don't you stop throwing rubbish in the bin? So I'm not saying that because it's just the way it is. What you really need to probably concede or accept or think about is there is no one solution for waste around the world. There's several pollution. There's several solutions, right? Avoidance is one. There is a hierarchy for this, right? Doing things differently and generating less waste or less waste products, the way you package things and that to start with is one way. Then you have the situation, if I don't package my television enough, I don't want it to ride broken. So you end up with a thing. So that solves some of the problem. We reduce at the source. We then...
But it's happening. There are innovations happening. Blackmore, the organisation here in Australia, are creating bottles to put their vitamins in that are then able to be recycled or broken down.
That's great. No, but
So
there's no one solution.
We should be encouraging.
We are. The whole industry is.
I feel like you're kind of talking like this is a not-for-profit venture. You're doing us a favour. It's community service. It's some kind of amazing. The way you're talking, that's how it sounds like. We're doing this for the world. We're doing this for the. No, it's a company. We're not all idiots. We know you're going to make profit. We all accept that. We just feel like you don't live here. If you build your house down the street and you live here with your family, then I'm happy for you to live here and enjoy the fumes. Why isn't
I
in
work
your...
here every day, and hundreds of my employees work here.
So do your families and your little babies here?
You know,
I have
it's great
3
if we don't
babies.
stop the merit of the project. Do you want to
And
come
I'm
after me?
sorry,
That's
I
fine.
feel for your employees. The money is not worth your health.
Before I actually joined this company, I did my diligence on what the business was doing here. I have many years experience in the waste industry prior to this, and I was really impressed with the objectives, what they're actually doing, the vision for the future for the business, the reuse options of resources that would ordinarily be placed into places like landfill or illegally tipped elsewhere. What we do here is a very unique thing. You know, we've got resource recovery rates from product that comes into this facility that exceed 80%. And we have reuse options putting out there, saving resources or raw materials from having been consumed in the construction industry for road building and so forth. So from my perspective, I'm a father, I've got 5 children, I'm also a grandfather. I'm concerned about their future. But I support what we're doing here wholeheartedly because I think it's industry's best practices. And as I can't go into the technical details of the waste energy power facility, okay? But again, I'm one of these people who realise for sustainability with a growth rate in Western Sydney, we need alternative. Because the only other choices we're going to have is excessive mining of already overmined areas, produce coal to put into coal-fired power stations. Okay, if we are concerned about this, and you're asking valid questions, I have utmost respect for all your concerns, and hopefully this process, or this education interaction process, will help alleviate those concerns. But I'm not only concerned about my children, I have up to 110 employees on this site, day in, day out. So they're my concern as well. I have to ensure that their safety, they're going home, fit and well.
James Hardy did 20 years ago.
Like James Hardy did?
We care about our employees and everything.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
And it's very manipulative, this whole children and grandchildren business. When the report came out yesterday, did you read all that?
I have started to read the report.
Just started to read.
And look, I'm sorry you feel I'm trying to be manipulative, but I'm not trying to be.
The guy pays you, the company pays you, you have to say this.
I have a choice.
Really...
I don't have to work for Ian. I can work anywhere I want.
But you do.
I do, and I choose to, because I believe in what we're doing here.
The increased traffic flow is actually quite small because one, it does run 24/7, and two, a lot of the waste that is going to it, which is now landfilled, goes to the facility. So it's not a. I think I don't want to misquote it, but it's a couple of movements an hour. And please understand that part of our cost of our facility is building the road that you're standing on here, and the road that will then run through here. We build the infrastructure to bring it in. We don't cause it, make it worse, we make it better. Waste is going up to Queensland and being buried in the ground. It's not to be processed. There's no levy up there. It's a commercial drive and you've got trucks. So I think the count's at about 912,000 tonnes a year is roaring up the coast and just being buried in landfill up there because it's cheaper. It's a situation that's happened with the disparity in levies, which is something that's happened in the last few years, and that'll turn itself around probably over the next 12 or 12, I'm not sure, 12 to 24 months and sees. Okay, so there's a landfill levy for every tonne that goes into a landfill. There's which creates the whole recycling factor and tries to make it viable, because it does need that assistance. To avoid landfilling, the government takes a levy, which I can talk to you numbers. $135 a tonne is taken by the government for every tonne that ends up in landfill. and by recycling it or avoiding the landfill is what then participates the things like actions against with industry to try and work on avoidance of waste because of a cost driver, because commercial drivers usually come to bear at the end of the day on all of these things, and to promote recycling. The issue with the Queensland situation, to try and explain it, is there is no levy. So it's cheaper to drive a truck, which is pretty crazy, from here all the way to Queensland, 1,000 kilometres away, and dump it in the ground there, than it is to do it here. So a lot of recyclables are actually just ending up in landfill because of that. The way is there's about 1.1 million tonnes of material which goes through the facility. Then what comes out is 40,000 tonnes of, for summary words, it's called an APC residual. In plain English, it's a fly ash. Fly ash, and there's 40,000 tonnes of that comes off into sealed tankers.
Has to be wet down.
And you'll remember, you'll remember at that particular point in the meeting, I got to the video and turned it back to show a picture of the tanker. So that's how sure I am I answered this question in full. So the 40,000 tonnes of the material goes into sealed tankers. It doesn't have to be wet down because it's in a sealed tanker. Okay. So there's a lot of information to read. There's also, you need to let me answer it. I'm going to it.
40,000 tonnes go?
There's also a video on our website, tngnsw.com.au. And if you go there, it's a great summary of this stuff that shows you about this. So that's 40,000 tonnes of material. That 40,000 tonnes in the future should be able to be a reusable source. Initially, it is not. All right, it is quite toxic, and it will go to a landfill. Right? So
Sorry, what does it
stop. It's the 40,000 tonnes. Okay, you asked the question. I'm going to give you the answer. The other 150,000 tonnes of material that comes off, once proven, and it's used all over the world as a road-based material, a road aggregate material. Once here, because it is a new technology coming here, once we do the proper testing according to the EPA and everything, and it's proven to be a road-based material, it will then be used as a road-based material. There is no hidden secret about what happens to the ash coming off the plant. We turn 1.1 million tonnes down to 200,000 tonnes of ash. The bottom ash is actually wetted, sir. Yep. The bottom ash is wetted down because that's what causes the maturation of the material to turn it into the form of a road base. We then still remove some metals and so forth, and that's what happens with the ash. And that's the same answer that was given at council the other night.
But where are you going to bury it? That's the question.
The 40,000 tonnes at the moment is destined for Cedar at Kemps Creek.
Right, well you didn't say that on the night.
Okay.
You did not say that.
Well, there's no secret to it.
You couldn't disclose it.
It's not the only destination to go to, but at the moment that's the type of approval. The other answer I did give you is that we can mix it with cement and bury it here. So that answer did come out as well. There's two options with that material: to bury it somewhere else, or to stabilise it with cement and leave it in the landfill here. So that was actually brought up. Okay. But that's okay. I don't expect you to remember everything that happens in one of those meetings.
Say where it was